Okay, so I'm about to put together a cover of a mini album. I thought I'd just tape it. So what I've got here is just two pieces of pattern paper, 12 by 12, that I've joined together. And all I've done is put a piece of Scor tape underneath the join here, and then also underneath the join on the other piece of paper. So when you sandwich it together, there is Scor tape on both edges, if that makes sense. So I've joined that together. Now, what I've got is two cover pieces. So I'm going to put Scor tape, which is really strong tape. You can use redline tape, miracle tape, anything that's super strong. Now, personally, I don't recommend wet glue for covers. And the reason I don't is because they can buckle, and we do not want buckling on the covers. There are tons of wet glues that don't necessarily buckle. I like art glitter glue or Scotch tacky. I personally don't use them on covers. So I like to put really strong dry adhesive around the edges. And then because it's paper to paper, I just use my ATG to cover a lot of the cover to just make sure that the pattern paper adheres really well. So I just sort of make a cross pattern, draw some lines down across it. I just put some new tape in. This one isn't plain nice. So I'll just go slowly. So then I will just, I've burnished this tape. I'll pull the tape off. I don't have fingernails at the moment. The challenge with chipboard is that because this tape's so strong, it wants to rip a layer of your chipboard off. So you want to make sure you've burnished it. So you can see I'm pushing down with my fingernail really well so that the backing comes off without ripping off a layer of chipboard, because that's not what we want. So I'm just pulling the tape off. Trying to, I'm having the same problem. Super sticky. Okay, now I've got my middle piece here, which I haven't put adhesive on, but all I do is just sort of line it up in the middle. Now this pattern is a floral, so it doesn't matter if it's not perfectly straight, but if it does matter if it's perfectly straight, just be careful to line it up well. Now I like to leave about that much, which is just over sort of a width of chipboard in between, because you've got to allow for the pieces to fold together. So if you don't leave a gap, it will cause cracking underneath the join. So I'm just going to go and put adhesive on this piece and the other piece, and then I'll show you what's next. Okay, so I've now got my adhesive on the other cover and the spine, which I'm just going to remove. Now what you can do is make a jig of 2 thicknesses worth of chipboard to stick between the pieces if that's what you need to do. I just eyeball it. I've done enough of these, so I don't need to do that. So you do want to make sure that the top and bottoms are lined up, otherwise your cover's going to be wonky. So now I'm going to line up this piece, and it's so sticky, so it's a little bit challenging sometimes to get it right without permanently adhering it, which we don't want to do just yet. Okay, that looks good. Okay, so I've got that down. Then what you want to do is flip it, grab my bone folder here, and I'm just going to burnish it really, really well. I want to make sure all that adhesive has stuck all around the edges. Now, what I like to do, this is really thick, awesome quality cardstock. It's a Midnight collection by Cocoa Vanilla. It depends on the cardstock you're using as to how it behaves. So you need to train the fibers of the paper so that it doesn't crack. Things like flocking or embossed paper can be more difficult, so I wouldn't recommend that. So for me, see how I've got a border around all the edges? You need that because that's what's going to adhere to the cover. So I tend to just bend it. Sorry, the camera's probably in the way and the white balance is off and there's a glare, but you get the picture. So just bend it gently until it starts to fold up, and I at this stage just use my fingers because I don't want anything too harsh. So we're going to go around the whole thing and do the same thing on all sides. Okay, so I've done that on all sides, and what you'll find, knocking things over, you'll see the crease where both sides have folded. Now I'm going to cut that out because I don't want the bulk on my cover. Don't cut too close to the corner. I'll bring it up close as I can so that you can see. So I just want to leave a bit of a gap here because we're going to fold that in before we fold the cover over. So we'll do that. Okay, now obviously we need to apply adhesive. Again, I use a strong adhesive and I fill in with ATG. So what I do here is put the strong adhesive anywhere that there is a fold or a join. So I'll show you what I mean. So this goes right across. Don't worry about the join here. Just keep going right across. Now, because it will be used heavily, I personally put another row of really strong adhesive along the outside edge, so it's a double stick. You don't want to go to all this trouble of making this album and then have it fall apart. So we're going to do that to all 4 sides. I've got that adhesive down and I use my Teflon bone folder to go around all the sides and burnish that down. And then I will pick up the tape and fill it in with ATG. Okay, so I'm just using my ATG to fill in the gaps. It doesn't have to be perfect, you're just providing more adhesive. Now, I don't think it matters whether you do long sides or short sides first when you're folding it in, but I do think it matters that you do both of them. So if you're going to do the short side, do both of them first, or if you're going to do the long sides, do both of them first. So I'll just do the short side because it's easier to see. So your bone folder here is your best friend. You want to burnish along the flat side so that you don't get any bulging when it wraps around. You want it nice and tight, and I tend to start from the middle and just stick it down so it's a really nice sharp edge. I'll show you again. Flip it over, same thing. Because I've already trained the paper, it is a pretty good crease. And then I want to go, oh, I hear my dog coming down the stairs, across the corner, start in the middle, go along. Nice sharp crease. Now what I'm going to do here is fold this in so that you're not going to see the corner of the chipboard once the cover's on. So you're going to just tuck that corner in. I hope you can see I've just tucked that in there, and I'm going to do the same on, oh, getting stuck to it, all 4 corners. Tuck it in, tuck it in, and tuck it in. And then I'm going to do the same thing with the long side. I've got these down now. I just go along like this. So the flat side of my bone folder is along the edge, and just make sure that that's nice and sharp all the way around. Now under here I can see I've got a tiny bit of a gap. This is art glitter glue. I know it won't buckle, so you can just squeeze some adhesive underneath there and stick it down. So now what we need to do is train the paper on these folds. So just be a little gentle. You can use your bone folder to reinforce, especially on this thick paper, the folds a bit, because you don't want cracking, so take your time. Now, if you see any bubbling here, stop, add adhesive, let it dry and continue. Otherwise, you're never going to get that flat and you don't want that. So let's just score that. Yep, no bubbling, we're cool. And fold it over. And the more you play with that cover and open and close it, the easier it will be. But see how easily that folds now because I've left that gap. If I didn't leave a gap and just had 2 together, they're fighting with each other, and that's what causes the cracking. So that's done. Now, I personally don't like to see this seam, so I'll probably cover that up. You can do whatever you like. Okay, so I have decided that I'm going to cover up that spine join that I don't like between the 2 papers. Now what I've done is just use some more Scor tape along that spine. I've gone across the corners here, and I've also put adhesive just across the middle pieces here, and I've gone around the edges here. Now I think what I'm going to do, I don't want these bits lifting up, so I think I might just put some glue along there as well to be sure, and I'll certainly fill in the middle as I've done previously with ATG, and I'll be right back. Okay, so I've run a thin bead of art glitter glue along the edges of the scallops. I didn't actually need to fill in with ATG because I've got all this Scor tape on the spines, so I've just put a little bit on the edges just in case it goes past where the Scor tape is. And again, it's going to stick to the paper and not do as I'm telling it to do. It's okay, I'll use my mum voice on it. Okay. I initially, you can see here, started using the 1/4 inch tape, but thought better of it and switched to, I think it's 1/2 inch Scor tape, just to make my life easier, no other reason than that. There we go. Now you can see the bead of art glitter glue I've just run along the edge there. So all I'm simply doing is just, actually I think it'll be easier to do the other way. I know that probably doesn't make a lot of sense, but if I do it this way, I can see the joins and I can kind of center it a bit better. It doesn't matter too much, because it doesn't matter if the front and back aren't exactly perfect, but I want them to be, you know, fairly close. Okay, I'm just pushing down because I want the art glitter glue to stick there. And then I'm just, I guess, forcing the paper here over. Now keep in mind, these hinges are now going to have to close over 2 layers of cardstock. So I'm just going to spend some time on this, make sure A, it's stuck down, and B, that it's going to fold. So, I'm having a craft lampshade over here. Don't mind me. All right, so I'm just going to, this is a Teflon bone folder, so it's really easy to sort of use without worrying too much. I'm going to flip that over. Burnish it all down. That's good. There's no glue seeping out, and that's pretty well adhered. Now, use a glue that dries matte and clear. This is Art Glitter Glue Designer Dries Clear. There is one that doesn't dry clear. Get the dries clear. Okay, so now I'm going to, see, I don't want this buckling, so I'm just going to make sure I'm keeping that flat. Yep, that's okay. I'm really just working that cardstock, because in effect that's what it is, it's so thick, into the adhesive there. If you want to make mini albums, I highly recommend a Teflon bone folder. They are just the bomb. Now you can see how different that is. It's not closing as easily as it did, and it wants to pop open, but the more I play with it, I can even go a little bit past where I want that to open, and just get the paper used to folding. So take some time to open and close, play with the hinge and get that working. Now I don't want to play with it too much because I don't want the adhesive to pop off when it's still drying. So this now gives my cover a really nice finished flat edge with no seam, which I love. And I just think it just finishes the cover off nicely. So that's what I've done here.